So, we welcome you all to our 11th webinar, that's Dhakar Entrepreneurship with Mr. Arun Datta and Mr. Mukesh Ketupal. Talking about the speakers, I'd like to brief you on the speakers as well. Mr. Arun Datta is perhaps the senior most HR professional in healthcare in the country today. He's also a national trainer with a program called Impritic, which is a United Nations program established by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development to provide the creation of sustainable, innovative, and internationally competitive small and medium-sized enterprises. Mr. Mukesh Ketupal, a well-known name, founder and CEO of Indus Management Consultants Private Limited, which is a 25-year-old organization with pan-India presence and rich industry experience. He's done his BTech from IIT Delhi and MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. And he has worked in the corporate world for approximately 19-20 years. Some of the companies he has worked for are Tata Steel, Brook Bond, the UB Group, RPG Enterprises, and in his last assignment, he was the Senior Vice President of Show Wallace. So that's not all. Today, if you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the place, this is the point. So the point of discussion today would be, what is entrepreneurship? How does an entrepreneur handle risk and failure? Can I be an entrepreneur while I work in a job? And how can I be a successful entrepreneur in my life? So, not keeping you waiting and inviting Mr. Mukesh Ketupal. So, I would like to request Mr. Mukesh Ketupal if he is online. Yes, I see him is online. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening to everyone.
Hope you are doing good.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
Great. There's one similarity that I see today. It's good.
I'm sure a lot of people will see that.
Do that. It's good to see somebody of the same top platform that we have.
Okay. That's right.
So good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
I will
Thank
hand
you
over
so
the
much.
stage to you. Thank you for being on time and as always. So over to you, Mukesh, sir. Thank you.
No, I really look forward to interacting with you once again. I can see a lot of familiar faces and some new faces as well. Yeah. I am just awaiting Arun to join us. Oh yes, I can see Arun now on the screen.
Yes.
Good evening, Arun. Can you hear me, Arun?
Hi. Good evening.
Yeah. Hi. Okay. So before I let the stage to Arun, I'd just like to say that Arun and I have been classmates together. We did our MBA program together, and then of course Arun has gone on very successfully to become a very senior corporate executive. Like Nitin was saying, he was heading the HR function in the healthcare sector, perhaps the go-to person in that sector. And today he's an entrepreneur in his own right. So therefore, who better than Arun to lead us into this program? But Arun, before I kind of hand over to you, I'd just like to say, Arun, this topic of entrepreneurship brings to my mind a lot of images. Some of the images that come to my mind are, to be somebody who is creative, somebody who's a restless kind of a fellow, is passionate, or sometimes also a rule breaker, a chap full of belief and self-confidence, or somebody who's a jugadu, I may say, able to improvise. Yeah. Actually, a little crazy, I would say. I mean, got to be a little mad, if I may use that word, to be half crazy to become an entrepreneur. And yet another side of this entrepreneurial, profile, if I may say, we've got world-class entrepreneurs. The likes of Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, our own Mr. Narayan Murthy, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, But Arun, do you know something? I just did a little bit of research. You know, out of all these names that I've named, these 6, 7 names that I've named, 4 were actually college dropouts. You know, so actually, in that sense, you know, your and I, our degrees are a disqualification to being an entrepreneur. Uh, Now, I'm sure you will unravel all this for us because we are going through stressful times. The COVID, epidemic is here. It has hit us badly, and many of us, heaven forbid, might even need to switch jobs or lose our jobs. And so, Arun, what is your message? Yeah, what is this? You know, I mean, will you please unravel for us? What is this entity called an entrepreneur? Please, you know, kindly kind of, explain this difficult proposition, you know, this difficult kind of animal, if I may say, you know, who exists. Please, sir, all yours.
So you very rightly described, Mukesh, entrepreneurs as half crazy, half mad guys.
Oh my God.
Sometimes,
See, okay.
sometimes these guys leave very cushy jobs that they have, well-paying jobs that they have, and they suddenly, start an organization of their own, in which there's a lot of uncertainty, in which
Right.
there is nothing that is predictable.
Right.
And you were also very right when you said about the college dropouts,
I see.
and there's a very good reason behind that. What
Okay.
education does to us is that it, it keeps our thinking into that uh, square or into a
Straight jacket.
combined
If I may say.
kind of thinking. What is
Right.
required for entrepreneurial work is very creative thinking, and you cannot be creative. The fact of the matter is, some amount of our education reduces our creativity, which has actually been experienced, which has actually been measured, and it has been researched. So sometimes it is good to be a college dropout to become an entrepreneur.
Oh, I see. So all these people who've done their college education are unfit right now, is it? I mean, little too late for us to undo that. Okay, but then please carry on. Yeah.
So there are two kinds of thinking that we generally have. What
Right.
we generally do is that we when we are in corporates, when we are looking around for jobs that are very predictable jobs, there's a job description, you're supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that, you're supposed
Right.
to achieve this, you're supposed to achieve that, right? And this is the fixed monthly salary that you're going to get.
Right.
We become used to very predictable future.
Sure.
So yeah, but entrepreneurship is all about unpredictability. You cannot predict what is going to happen. And in fact, we are talking about entrepreneurship right now because of the fact that the times are very unpredictable because of COVID.
Okay. Right.
So when you are in a job, you are used to a very predictable future.
Right.
If I were to give you some kind of an example, let's say you are a manager appointed for selling say motorcycles
Okay.
in South India.
Right.
What you would do as a manager is you would say, fine, there are 10 states and there are 50 districts. So I need 50 field representatives, I need 10 sales managers, I need these resources. And the minute you get those resources, you start working on it, and you are quite sure that you will achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Right.
The entrepreneurial guy will say, I have 2 managers, let me start with 2 managers. And he will start with 2 managers, he will start working.
Right.
And as he starts working, he suddenly realizes that I initially thought of 50 field representatives, but I actually need only 25
Okay.
because the city is upon their own. So therefore, entrepreneur does not say that I need these 50 resources and I will do it this way. He says, let me start with whatever I have and whatever I can do with. And he does.
Taking your auto example, if I may, I'm told that Tesla Motors, Mr. Elon Musk, who's the founder of Tesla Motors, does not have one single dealership at all in the whole world. He says that you can sell a car without a dealership. He says, because if you want to update your software in the car, I'll just mail it to you. You update your software, and my car is a electric car, and actually you don't need a dealership. So perhaps corroborates what you're saying in terms of the traditional thing would be like a Ford motor car company setting up a number of dealerships across the country. And here is this fellow who's come and who's billing. I believe that his valuation is 3 times that of Ford Motor Car Company. More than General Motors and Ford Motor Car put together.
Yes.
So is that what you're saying is entrepreneurial?
What he has done is
Right.
he's come out with technology, the
Yes.
electric motor technology and the battery technology that he's come out with.
Right.
And because his technology is a disruptive technology, his way of managing also is disruptive. So he would not go through the normal route through the dealers and trying to sell his cars through dealers. He knows that he does not need dealers.
By the way, I researched him. He's done his PhD, so he's the only entrepreneur out of this list that I was reading who's actually not only done his college, he's done his post-graduation, and he's done his PhD. I mean, all the others are dropped out of college, as we're aware.
Yeah. No. I mean, what is true is sometimes, as I said, education straight jackets you. But what is also true is, and it has happened with me personally. I mean, the minute I came out of XLRI, it was a straight jacket kind of a thinking. I want to get the best job that there is. I would compare my salary with the salaries that are being offered to my classmates, and I would find the best job. I never thought of becoming an entrepreneur at that point of time, because your thinking is so straight-jacketed. But what also happens is, over a period of time, as you start working in the organizations, in the industry, you suddenly start realizing that you have some kind of a burning desire to do something that is not going to be possible in the jobs.
So, do I smell a tinge of regret in your voice when you say that? Kash may, I should have, gone out and been on my own and turned entrepreneur. Is that
I would not call it a tinge of regret, because what is true is, but I mean, when I started analyzing my own work in my own life, I realized the fact that it is the experience of working in various organizations that has stayed with me very good stead. And if I've succeeded as an entrepreneur, it is also because of the fact that I've had a lot of work experience in various organizations at various levels. So
what are you saying? When should you turn, entrepreneur? Because I was just reading, seeing a video by Jack Ma, the world famous thing, and this is what he said. He said, between 20 and 30, you should follow a good boss. When you're 30 and 40, just go out and do it. When you're 40 to 50, do the things that you're good at. And when you're 50 and 60, then you train and develop people. And if you're 60 plus, he says, then just play with your grandchildren. So,
well, various people have said various things, but I have also read somewhere that the most productive age that you have is when you are 60 plus. So you are at your highest potential when you are 60 plus. So you're not really the right age to
so
play.
60 is the new 30. Is that what you're saying?
Is the new 30. Because that's when you become most productive in your life.
Okay, let's come back to our discussion. I like
Yeah.
one thing that you particularly said. You said that you know, in the case of Elon Musk, he worked with disruptive technology, and here we are in a world of disruption. I mean,
Exactly.
the COVID is a straight example of how the whole world has they've changed the paradigm of the way people used to live and work. So, are you saying that in a period of disruption, and role of an entrepreneur or more entrepreneurs emerge, and this is the time for him to stand up and be counted? Would it be right to say that?
So I'm saying two things, Mukesh. I'm
Right,
saying that because of COVID, there's a lot of disruption around, a lot of uncertainty around,
right,
right? A lot of people are losing jobs, salaries are being reduced, top lines are down, there are no customers in the pipeline. There is
right,
definite all around.
right,
And now, at this point of time, you are going to look around for opportunities. If you have already unfortunately lost a job, you might be looking around for opportunities, and you might be trying to find out what exactly should you be doing next.
right.
You are already in a corporate in which there's a lot of distress. You are still working in the corporate, but there's a lot of distress. In
Huh.
both these kind of situations, entrepreneurial effort gives a very good solution to your problems. For one, as I said, that entrepreneurial thinking thrives in uncertainty. We were
Uh-huh.
talking about
Okay.
the fact that a manager would ask for 50 field sales representatives to sell a motorcycle. An entrepreneur would do it right away on day one. Find out there if he has two people, he'll start with two people, and
Right.
he'll work his way up, right? He will start collaborating. Now, a typical manager will start competing. He will say, I am
Uh-huh.
selling brand X motorcycles. My competition
Right.
is selling Y motorcycles. I am selling, let's say, a 100cc motorcycle. My competition is selling 150cc motorcycle. So let me start by going to my customers and telling them that they need only 100cc and they don't need 150cc, right?
Hmm.
That is a typical managerial thinking. Uh,
Okay.
uh, Entrepreneur will say, well, if this customer needs 150cc and I don't have 150cc in my, I mean, I'm not manufacturing 150cc. I'll go to my competition and tell them that, look, every time that I give you a customer, you have to give me a customer, and I'll give you 150cc ka customer. That is
Oh,
the typical. That is a typical collaborative thinking of an
right.
entrepreneur. It is not
Okay.
the competitive thinking of a typical manager. So,
Okay.
so when
So,
you are in uncertain times, you start thinking of whatever is predictable,
hmm,
and therefore you start working on it, and you are a little more collaborative. You as a manager, you want to avoid contingencies.
right.
You plan for contingencies, you want to avoid contingencies. An entrepreneur will say, if there are contingencies, let me work around those contingencies and I'll convert those contingencies into some kind of an opportunity for myself.
Mhm. No,
So,
that's
so
that's that's
these,
that's well said. But then, are you saying that entrepreneurial this thing means that you have to strike out on your own? Can't you be an entrepreneur whilst you work in an organization, or is that you have to kind of break away and then you know do your own?
no,
What is your say?
no. So, as I said, that
Hmm.
entrepreneurial work offers solutions to both. To those people who are today perhaps without a job, they
Uh-huh.
can strike out on their own as an entrepreneur. But
Right.
even those organizations who are facing a lot of distress because perhaps the top lines are down, perhaps
Right.
because there are no customers in the pipeline,
Right.
even those organizations should become entrepreneurial in their thought process. What happens in a typical organization, Mukesh, is that
Yeah.
the CEO says he identifies an opportunity for business, right?
Right. Right.
He is the one who carries out the research to find out what are the pros and cons of that opportunity. He finds out what does he need to invest. He finds out
Right.
where are the markets. He finds
Okay.
out how should he be growing the organization.
Right.
And as he starts working on it, as the organization starts developing, he continues to think in an entrepreneurial manner, but people who are working with him, they start thinking in managerial manner because they want a predictable kind of a work style.
Right.
Here is a time that because there is so much unpredictability around you, that
Right.
if even if in a large organization you become a little more entrepreneurial in your thinking, you are definitely going to succeed. What I am trying to say is that, like a typical CEO who keeps on looking around for opportunities, who keeps on calculating risks, who keeps on
Right.
looking at the market, who keeps on innovating. If there are people within the organization, right from top to the bottom, who start thinking in entrepreneurial manner, and the culture becomes entrepreneurial, that is when you are likely to succeed as a big corporate too.
Okay, I
So
think
it's
why I buy what you're saying, that usually we leave the thinking to the guy sitting on the top. He's got
yes,
this lofty vision that he creates of the organization,
right,
about what it should be and what is the strategy to get where he wants to. And
right.
and quite often that vision statement remains stuck on the wall. And if you really ask the chap, who's the foot what the vision is, he really has to scratch his head and say, "Oh my God, there is something there that's written on the wall." So, are you therefore saying that now that should change and it should become bottom upwards? That would be asking too much, Arun.
No. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying
Hmm.
is, for a typical entrepreneur, what happens is his vision is quite clear to himself. He
Right.
definitely wants, he definitely knows what he wants to do,
Hmm.
definitely knows what he wants to be seen as once he starts succeeding and doing what he wants to do. So, therefore,
Right.
his vision is complete.
Right.
But his mission, who are his customers, what are the services given to the customers, how does he render those services, how does he render the products to the customers. So therefore the mission part of it keeps on changing with the changing time. So
So
as
what
you
you're saying
start
is that the chap, yeah. So the chap at the front, he perhaps has got his nose closest to the ground, and
right.
therefore is perhaps most aware. And hence, what you're saying is that he should play an important role in getting this feedback back to his management, so that the management can kind of then reorient themselves to address that particular need. Is that what you're saying?
I lost a little bit of your voice,
Okay, no.
Mukesh.
I just repeat myself. I'm just saying that the person on the front, you know, on the right at the in the marketplace, perhaps is most sensitive to the environment in which he's operating, and therefore he has a role to not only just discharge what he's told to do, but be entrepreneurial enough to kind of suggest to his management or what is happening, and perhaps even suggest a possible option for the management to consider. Is that what you're suggesting?
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. But how will that happen? It will happen only when he has a manager who thinks in an entrepreneurial manner and tells him that, look, you also think in an entrepreneurial manner, and the minute that you find that there is no opportunity for what we are trying to do, but there is a slightly different opportunity, you come back to us and tell us, so that if let's say you're trying to sell laptops, but you find that there's an opportunity to sell iPads, come and tell us. So
Uh-huh.
what happens is that the man at the front end, who's
Right.
actually feeling the market, he tells his boss that, look, there is no market for laptops, there's a market for iPads, right? But if the
Okay.
manager is of the kind, if the manager is a controlling kind, he'll go and tell him, hey, your job is to sell laptops. Don't you think about iPads?
Which is the usual practice, if a youngster comes up and says something new, the manager says, "Shut up! I've been kind of doing this for the last 20 years. Mera baal safed aisa thodi ho gaya hai." No, so you better listen to me. So, but then how do you change this complexion, Arun? It's easier said than done. Especially old organizations have created a particular way of working, and they're not really receptive to the frontline positions. So how does one go about changing this?
So such organizations, Mukesh, work in predictive or predictability, times. If the
Right.
time is predictable, if the future is predictable, they work very well. When
Uh-huh.
things become unpredictable, like COVID, we have assumed that there's certain market for motorcycles and you're going to sell those motorcycles the way that you have been selling them, that is predictability. You know what's
Right.
going on in them. When suddenly things become unpredictable because of the fact that COVID or some other problem like this has created a lot of uncertainty in the market, such organizations are not able to function, and
So,
therefore
so, so
agility
if,
in the
so
organization
if
is
I may,
very important.
so if I may reinforce what you're saying is that, your past experience works well in a steady environment where you are able to, do some trend and learning. But in a fast changing environment, some of your learnings might become a handicap to where you are. And in such situations, you have to get entrepreneurial in trying to respond to the change. Okay. By the way, Arun, I can see a very brilliant friend of mine who's on the program, and I'm going to point her out, to the audience here. Sonia, welcome to the program, and I'm not going to ask you to remain as a mute spectator. So I'm going to throw a few googlies at you, and I want to get your reaction also as we go along. Okay, Sonia, are you okay, comfortable with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Yeah. So Arun, Sonia is a very well acclaimed consultant, and we might be happy to draw her into this conversation as well.
Hi,
Yes.
Sonia.
Hi, hi Arun. I have to admit I'm here because I wanted to listen to Mukesh. He's a very dear friend. I'm not an expert on this topic at all, but whatever I
Come
can.
on, Sonia. Okay, Sonia. Let's keep that short. Okay, we will test you right now, very shortly. Yes, Arun. Please carry on. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So what were you saying? Yeah. Yeah. Please.
So we were talking about the fact that entrepreneurial thinking is what
Right.
is required in organizations, and if you were to study the history of even large corporates,
Right.
yesterday was the day before, there was entire history of various corporates in America that had come out in the newspapers, and Amazon was one history that I was reading. If you read the history of corporates, you will find that the corporates start with a lot of uncertainty. They are not
Right.
sure of what product, how will they work on that product, what kind of a market is it going to be. But they work through that unpredictability, through uncertainty,
Right.
and as they become a little more successful, as the markets become predictable, as the organization becomes a little more stable, as the future becomes a little more stable and a little more predictable, money starts coming in. That's when organizations start becoming from entrepreneurial to managerial.
Uh-huh. So that's when the problem
So
starts. Is that what you're saying?
I would not say that's a problem, because I don't want to say that managerial way of thinking is not the right way of thinking. In predictable times, managerial way of thinking is just the right thinking. But in unpredictable times, like the ones that we are in now, entrepreneurial way of thinking is the right way of thinking, because that is when you will be able to work with the uncertainty around. Entrepreneurs thrive in uncertainty. So
But if I may say, Arun, predictability is in today's context, not an easy, or what is here, to stay. And so to that extent, it's a fast changing world. And so therefore, the place of the manager is kind of, would you say, his stature is reduced, and therefore an entrepreneur is a more preferred specimen. Uh, Actually,
no,
there's
no, I would not say that there is a reduction in any of the status of any. So the idea is not to say what is what is good or what is bad. I used to say what is more appropriate at this point of time. It is more appropriate at this point of time even for a manager to think in an entrepreneurial manner, and for the leaders of the organizations to realize the fact that over a period of time, those guys who are actually the founders of the organizations and who have founded the organization, maybe 10, 20, 30 years back, and today they are finding it that the organization has become a little more managerial. It is for those for leaders to understand the fact that they have to convert their culture into more of an entrepreneurial culture.
Okay.
How do you? I mean, you might say, but it is easier said than done, and it's very true. It is easier than said than done.
Right.
But if you, and I'm an HR guy, so I will talk about the fact that how we manage HR in various organizations. And if you were to look at core competencies that various organizations support, of course, at every level, for every function, there will be different competencies that will be required. But there will be some 4, 5, 6 core competencies that will be required throughout the organization at all levels, across all functions. And these core competencies define the culture of your organization. In these core competencies, one never talks about the fact that opportunity seeking should be one of your competencies.
Okay, well said. Okay. Let me. Sonia is sitting mum, so I'm going to kind of now, throw the ball at Sonia. Sonia, what is your view, in today's context? Has the role of the manager kind of got diminished, and in the VUCA times it is the entrepreneur who is the person who will succeed?
Okay, thanks, Mukesh. So, for me, entrepreneur is not a designation or a profession. Entrepreneur is a mindset.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with what is the VUCA environment or anything. I think whether we are leading or whether we are managing, entrepreneurial mindset is the mindset which will serve in any kind of situation, any turbulence, any crisis. When it comes to managing and leading, I feel there are two wheels of the same cart. Leading is, of course, when you lead people, and managing, of course, since Arun is from the HR domain, managing can also be with a lot of process. So there is people on one side, there's process on one side, and I think the bridge that connects the two is the entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay, well said. That is why I think, Arun, what Sonia is saying, many organizations, especially in these kind of, changing times, have consciously tried to become entrepreneurial, especially large organizations. In fact, companies like Levers years ago actually, created smaller entities within their larger setup so that they could give them, entrepreneurial kind of responsibility. And that is perhaps one of the reasons that they have been able to, succeed and stay, if I may say, current and, alive in today's context. Right?
So what I would say, Mukesh, is that if you are an organization in which you are encouraging people to seek opportunities, just understand the fact, if you don't encourage people to seek opportunities within the organization, they will seek opportunities outside the organization. They'll find something else and they'll go away. So therefore, you must encourage opportunities within the organization.
Right.
Now, within the organization, how do you seek opportunities? You seek opportunities by trying to find out a very different line of business itself, right? Try to find it. Even if you are not able to find a very different line of business that you want the organization to come into, you might even find just an opportunity to save some amount of cost somewhere. You might find an opportunity only to ensure that the service that you are giving is a better quality service. So these are
money, quality, time, are factors that you would kind of want to bring some quantum change around. That's the way it would work, right? Yeah. Okay, but that's all well said, Arun. The question is that, we've got a mixed profile of people who are attending the program today. and we've got youngsters here, we've got middle managers, and we've got some senior managers, who are present on this forum. So for the upper side, I mean, I can understand that they are, going to talk about strategic think and able to, cope with the change in environment. But for the front level person to use, you tell them that, you go and become an entrepreneur, becomes a little bit of a challenge, I mean, it's also risky for that fellow. I mean, he's kind of, so should he take that risk as a young man?
No, Mukesh, this is what I have personally done myself.
Right.
As I was telling you the other day, that I am doing some amount of entrepreneurial competency training in this United Nations program called MPTech.
That's right. Yes.
In this particular program, what we have done with various corporates who have signed on with us is that we have gone to them. We have identified people, high potential people within their organizations. We have given them training in entrepreneurial competencies. We've asked them, and we've told them, when I talk about the fact as to what is opportunity seeking, we actually train them in what exactly do you need to do in seeking opportunities within the organization or without the organization. So we've trained them in various skills that are required to seek opportunities. We've asked them to actually seek opportunities within the organization or outside the organization. And what we have done is we have actually asked the management, the senior management, the leaders to actually allow those people to work on those opportunities. Even though the fact is that they remain within the organization, they keep on receiving their salaries the way they've been receiving, but they spend more time on the opportunities that they have identified. And so this is some kind of you might call it entrepreneur. Or
So are you saying that entrepreneurship is teachable? Or, I thought some people say you're going to be born as an entrepreneur. So is it teachable?
No. The beauty of the situation is that it is teachable. Yes, very much.
Okay.
So this is one thing that I am very passionate about.
Sure about. Yeah.
Sometime in 1980s, one of the psychologists in Harvard, a guy called McClellan, he did a lot of research on entrepreneurs.
Right.
And he identified 10 competencies and he identified 30 behaviors that entrepreneurs must exhibit to be successful, right? What we did in this particular United Nations program is we went to these corporates. We, as I said, we identified the high potentials within them. We trained these high potentials in entrepreneurial competencies. We encouraged them to find out opportunities, to seek opportunities. They did, and we did some amount of hand holding while these budding corporate entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them, they went around doing their work.
Arun, let me kind of play a devil's check on this. See, what I thought some of the competencies that are required for a successful entrepreneur is a strong sense of belief in what he's doing. I mean, he should be almost passionate about what he thinks is right. No, he should be let's say a rule breaker of some sort and be able to think in a paradigm in a different way. Now, how on earth do you kind of train a person to become a strong believer, or to become to not improvise? Is it teachable?
See, innovation is a very daunting kind of a word, and we say that we will teach people to become more innovative, and people think that it's not really possible. But the fact of the matter is that if you are able to do whatever you're doing in a better manner,
right,
and if you are able to do it in an early manner, which means that you save time, or the third thing is if you save cost.
Right.
If you increase the quality, or if you increase or you decrease the time required, or if you decrease the cost required, just these three things, if you are able to do whatever you're doing, you're innovative. So we don't say that innovation is something which is very daunting and people will not be able to do innovation, but innovation is something which is actually possible. And sometimes what happens is that that our own beliefs,
Right.
our own belief is that organizations are going to be very, they will not change easily. Uh, they become very structured in their thought process. They will not do whatever we are requiring them to do. But human potential, Mukesh, is unfathomable.
Uh-huh.
When you actually talk to people and when you tell them that these are the way of doing things and this is how you should really be doing, people actually change themselves and people actually adopt those things. I have had personal experiences in now.
Let me come back to that, thought of innovation that you were, elucidating. So basically, what you're saying is that even small changes that result in qualitative or improved cost effectiveness or time savings, etc. Actually, that's what Toyota does. I mean, what is Kaizen?
Yes.
Kaizen is small increments which kind of have added up to make a, if I may say, a Dhaka innovation. You're doing a Dhaka program. Dhaka innovation. So therefore, it is not necessary that you have to have a big mother, of an idea, which will be so disruptive, and therefore it is possible for many people to innovate without necessarily, turning the card upside down. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Just keep these words in mind: better, faster, cheaper. That's it.
Okay,
If you are able
simply
to do
said,
something
well
that
said.
is in a better manner, even if you're doing it faster, if you're doing it cheaper, you are innovating.
Right.
So therefore, while we were talking about the fact, I've had personal experiences where we have been able to change the thought process of people within the organizations. We've been able to make them little more agile in the way that we have done work with them, and they've actually changed. So therefore, this thought that it is going to become very difficult to change the thinking of people in various organizations is actually a self-imposed kind of a constraint on your own self. You say that my organization is not going to change. Well, if you say so, then of course you're not going to change. But the minute you start accepting,
Arun, it's we're talking about organization genetics, if I may say. Organization genetics, perhaps emerges for something called the management fiber of an organization. And fibers are a sense of beliefs which over the years have repeated themselves and they become mandates. And somehow those mandates then prevent people from, stepping outside, saying that, if you go outside this thing, we'll wrap you on the knuckles. So therefore, organizations become victim to, and they're unable to change their genetics. It's something like the dinosaur story, no?
Oh yes.
Huh?
So and because they are not able to change their genetics, that is the reason why they don't survive. The fact of the matter is that in changing circumstances, in changing times, when everything around you is falling apart. I mean, if you look at what is happening in the industry today, there is bloodbath in hospitality. There is bloodbath in civil aviation. How do you manage those organizations in times like this? But then there are people who are thinking about it. I mean, I am aware of one hotel who has sent all their employees to work in a hospital. Just something to do it differently, and people are doing it.
Okay, so Arun, and I throw this question at Sonia as well. Is it that you need a calamity, to occur before you trigger that, entrepreneurial streak in some people, and so that you are able to overcome? Isn't it possible that you don't have to kind of really go and prove before the change happens? Sonia, can I throw that question at you? Arun, let's get Sonia's view on that.
Sure.
So I think there's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a mindset which everyone has. In India particularly, there are many family-run businesses. Yes. And I think the genes there are very strong in terms of control, whereas there are others which are very progressive, very agile, very adaptive. So they do not wait for this alarm to go off, and then the fire alarm, and then everybody goes getting their oxygen masks. I think, so it is But I agree with Arun where he said that, sometimes we just preempt this unnecessary stumbling block that, if I'm an entrepreneur, my company is not going to welcome my suggestions. But I think it's a mental block. And the more that I'm dealing with companies and corporates, even family run, businesses where there is a succession planning, they are very open. They are very entrepreneurial. I think the other day in my chat, I had mentioned a gentleman who was 68 and the way he's adapted to the whole situation. So I think there are leaders who preempt and there are some which need a little bit more of a nudge. But it's a very optimistic picture that is available right now. Perhaps the COVID has just shaken all of us. So even those who are sleeping have now woken up and said, guys, we better get cracking.
Once in a while, we need a kick in our backside to kind of, spur us, in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yes. And this kick has woken up everyone.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Huge. Okay, Arun, I'm going to ask you a question now. What was the kick in your backside you got that you turned entrepreneur? I can relate some of what happened to me, but what happened to you? What made you turn?
My life. You're aware of the fact that I spent my life in healthcare.
Yes.
And in healthcare, one keeps on feeling the fact that healthcare should be industry where profit should not be a motive, right? In fact, one of my employers, a very senior doctor, used to say, Arun, if you practice good business, that may not be good medicine. But if you practice good medicine, that definitely will be good business. And I used to really identify with that gentleman, and I used to think that he was really understanding what he was saying. But over a period of time, I saw him also stumbling and becoming a victim of good business. Because the minute you start managing healthcare as a good business, somehow the good medicine takes a backseat. So that is exactly what kept, made me a little unsure of what was going on.
Pricked your conscience, is it? Pricked your conscience. Okay. Right.
So, I said, no, this is not what I wanted to do.
Right.
I want to work in a different manner so that I'm able to do something more than what I have done all my life. One unfortunate thing that you would have noticed because of this COVID is that while everybody is talking about the fact that they are going to establish hospitals, so many beds, the politicians are going on saying so many hospitals, so many beds have been established. The fact of the matter is that you might have noticed that the medical infrastructure in our country is very, very inadequate. Whether it is in private sector or whether it is in the government sector, it's very inadequate.
So what's that got to do with entrepreneurship? I mean, what's that got to do with Dr. What is the point of view?
It connected with me because I suddenly realized that no matter who's working within healthcare, within the country, they are all becoming good business people. They are not becoming good medicine people. I wanted to do something different. So what I did was I got together with some 3-4 colleagues of mine, and when we started this company in pathology, what we are doing, Mukesh, is because of the fact that your samples of blood, urine, whatever, etc., need not be transported all the way from your point to the pathology point and then analyzed and then sent back. We said that we will go into smaller cities and smaller towns of the country where we will collect the sample, we will analyze the sample then and there. But because the pathologist is not going to be available in smaller towns and smaller cities, we will transport the data to the pathologist, ask him to report, and then send the report back to
okay,
smaller
it's kind of a new idea that kind of worked for you. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
What we did was we will try and take medicine to those people who are being denied good medicine at this point of time only because of the fact that they live in smaller towns.
Okay,
and smaller
so
cities.
social cause. What you're saying is that which kind of
So
propelled
therefore,
you in this
therefore,
in this
yeah,
path. Is that right?
what I said was,
Hmm.
good medicine is good business. I'm not saying that we're not making money, man. We are.
Okay.
But at the same time, we are take medicine to those people who as of today do not have access to good medicine. So that is what it was passion inside me that I wanted to do that, and I did that
Okay.
along with.
I get your this thing. So it's a wonderful listing that transition that you made. You kind of obviously making good money also, like you're saying, good business as you're doing. Why not? But tell me now, in this COVID time, the VUCA world as we call it, you know, how can you? What is the message we'd like to give to some of the participants here, so as to be better prepared, to handle their current roles and perhaps I don't know, even find new opportunities. Sonia, let me throw this one again
So
at you.
yeah,
I just take your you let's get Sonia's view, then I'll
Sorry,
okay, okay.
sorry, Mukesh, I lost your question. Your
no.
audio.
What I'm saying is that Sonia, in these VUCA times, what is the message you'd like to kind of share with the participants here of how they can manage their corporate careers or their own businesses better and stay and survive in this kind of tough situation?
Yeah.
What is your kind of line that you'd like to give them so that they are able to come out smiling, if I may say?
Okay, so a couple of things very briefly. I think we need to shift our lens from selling to serving, right? Howard Schultz, the guy who started Starbucks, he said, we are not in coffee business serving people. We are in people business serving coffee. So at the end of the day, whatever industry we may be in, healthcare, hospitality, XYZ, your industry, my industry, it's all about service. The second thing is to have a purpose, a meaning in your life. Like I always quote Viktor Frankl, and I said that, what is the meaning you're attaching to your life? Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're leading, is that meaning something bigger than yourself? The minute you're able to get an answer to that, you have a beautiful roadmap, an optimistic roadmap. So this would be my message, that shift from being performance driven to being purpose driven, and shift your lens from selling to serving. The sales will happen, the profits will happen, and everything else will follow.
Beautifully said, Sonia. I think one need to know, each of us needs to discover that purpose in our life, and it should be a meaningful purpose. And if you are working towards that, then you will benefit the beneficiary, the customer, and perhaps benefit yourself. Arun, would you agree, or you have another viewpoint?
I would definitely agree with Sonia what she is saying.
Right.
I would go a step forward and I would tell people, I mean, there are possibly two kinds of people who are listening to us today: those who have already lost their jobs, or those who are still working in their organizations, but the organizations are very stressed organizations at this point of time.
Right.
So those people who have lost jobs, let them not think that entrepreneurial thought process or work is beyond them. Gone are the days when we used to think that entrepreneurs were born. Entrepreneurs, I am telling you, can be trained, and we have trained entrepreneurs, right? And it is not really a very big. If you start changing the way that you are thinking a little, it is not a very big thing to become an entrepreneur. You can become an entrepreneur. So look at entrepreneurial work as a possible alternative. Most probably, if you have lost your job, you are running from pillar to post, from one organization to another organization, trying to find another job. Do that. I'm not saying don't do that. But besides doing that, also think of entrepreneurial work as an alternative. And I'm sure that you will succeed. To those people who are still working in stressed organizations, as I said, entrepreneurial culture is the way out for them. They should think of entrepreneurial culture, and they should not think that the culture cannot change or the thought process cannot change. It can be changed. It can be changed, and they should work on that. So these are the two thoughts that I would leave people with.
Yeah, I think, what Sonia said and what you're voicing also, it's a way of thinking. Entrepreneurship is not necessarily a way of driving a business alone, but it's a thought process. And if that thought process it can be entrepreneurial to handle difficult situations in an entrepreneurial manner, and you are able to kind of find a solution, of course, albeit in trying to serve a larger purpose. Perhaps, that would be the best description of being a good entrepreneur. So be it a job or be it, your own business, that's the way, if you were to view your way forward, you'll probably be a very successful entrepreneur. Right? Okay. One last question. The fact is that, this entrepreneur business, see, most entrepreneurs are difficult people to work with. They want to kind of strike out on their own, and they're not necessarily good people managers. No? So, does the people thing come in, or is it just the strategic think that kind of helps to do a disruptive, bold, risk-taking kind of a position? Because we got good examples like Steve Jobs, who I'm told was not necessarily the best of managers. Okay. I mean, you could come out and be crying out of his room because the way and manner in which he treated you. And yet, he was a very successful entrepreneur. So what is your take on that? How does an entrepreneur, does the people factor kind of figure in any way for his way forward? Or is he a one single-minded fellow or meteor that is charting his own path? You're smiling. So are you, Arun. So what's your say on that?
People factor is important or not. Every fiber of my being is because of I've studied and because I've worked in HR. Yes, people factor is very, very important. Even if there is an entrepreneur who has a certain desire, who has a burning thought in his mind, he wants to achieve that. If he wants to do it all alone, he will always be all alone and he'll never be able to do it. Successful entrepreneurs will be those who have a burning desire in their mind, who want to achieve something in their life, and they share it with those people who are around them. And it is a shared thought and a shared process and a shared need to achieve which will make them succeed. Individuals will remain individuals. They will never be able to become successful entrepreneurs.
Okay, no. Sonia, what's your take on that?
Mukesh, there's something called the Apollo syndrome. When you have only one kind of people, so the first few missions to Apollo failed because there were only one kind of people that were sent there. So they got into these heated arguments and debates with each other. And finally, when they sent a hybrid group, that group succeeded. So the point I'm trying to make is that for any organization to succeed, any business to succeed, you need that hybridity. You need people, some of them who have people skills, some of them who are good in process, some of them who have an entrepreneurial mindset. So I wouldn't agree that all entrepreneurs do not have people skills. Just like all managers may not have people skills, all leaders may not have, some entrepreneurs may have. The whole thing is, where do you want to put your focus? Are you going to use a magnifying glass on their strengths, or are you going to use a magnifying glass on their weaknesses? So it's where you want to focus. That's my take.
Beautifully said. I was, again, to quote Jack Ma, and he was, talking about his success. And so he says that, listen, I was a school teacher and not necessarily the smartest man around. But my, success is based on the fact that I was able to recruit a lot of smart people to work under me. The only thing that he said is, to manage smart people is difficult. So that's the challenge, to manage the entrepreneur, because you'll always find in an organization there will be a disruptor, and he has a role to play, and yet you need to kind of also make him travel alone. Because if everyone were disruptors, the organization would flop. So you do need some sheep. You do need some people who will be able to do the day-to-day ordinary stuff. And you do need the thinkers. And the success of any leader is to manage the entrepreneur and this other set of team. And that's how, the two wheels of the cart perhaps will help the cart to roll better. Would that be right to say?
Yes. Well said. Well captured, Mukesh.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you, Sonia, for adding value to our program. I must admit that, if I were in her place, I just, saw her and chanced upon throwing some questions at her, and she's fielded it well. I can see from the comments that a lot of people are saying, Sonia, ma'am, you defined the entrepreneurship in the right direction. Thank you very much. And so simple to understand. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much.
I've lived it after 20 years of practicing law, then to switch to coaching. So I have an entrepreneurial mindset, so I can speak.
Yeah, that's right. Sonia was a successful lawyer before she started. Okay, I think let's get some summing up words to this, because we kind of are towards the end of our time schedule. So Arun, this whole story about entrepreneurship, there's some information that you'd like to take away, give a takeaway.
So we've said that entrepreneurial thinking is required in uncertain times. When the times are certain, when the times are predictable, you can think in managerial way. But when times become uncertain and unpredictable, you have to think in an entrepreneurial manner. And we've also said that entrepreneurial competencies are trainable. It is not as if entrepreneurs are only born entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs can be trained. And if unfortunately or fortunately you are in a situation in which you are looking for opportunities around you, look at the thought of becoming an entrepreneur. And I'm sure with proper mentors, with help, that can be given to you, you will succeed. The second thing that I want to say is to the top leadership of organizations who are under stress at this point of time. They also have to become entrepreneurial, and they have to ensure that every person at every level becomes a little more entrepreneurial in their thought process. That is what is going to help them to succeed, because then they'll be availing a lot of opportunities that exist. Every entrepreneurial work starts with identifying opportunities. Identifying and seeking opportunities, and therefore, in fact, I was saying that in those organizations in which entrepreneurial culture is there, are the ones who, in their core competencies, seek to ensure that opportunity seeking, risk taking, and innovation, these three competencies should definitely be part of their core competencies. They should definitely train their people in these competencies. They should definitely appraise their people in these competencies, and they should definitely ensure that these three competencies.
Okay, well said.
In short, if you are looking around for opportunities for yourself, look at entrepreneurial.
Well said. Yeah. So I think what you're saying is that if you want to invest your money on some on buying some stock, then you should look at the quality of the management that is there and their entrepreneurial ability, and therefore you might make a good buck if you are to put your money where those organizations that have a stronger entrepreneurial kind of capability. Yeah.
And if there are people from education today who are listening to us, I think the management schools must definitely become entrepreneurial themselves. One has to start entrepreneurs from management schools, and not really people like us, you and me. We have become entrepreneurs after serving the organizations and industry for quite a lot of time.
That's right.
But today we must start.
Yeah. And the government has come out with a new education policy even at the school.
Oh yes.
So many words. Okay. Okay, I think with those wise words, we kind of, conclude this session. Thank you very much, Arun. Thank you so much, Sonia. You'll have to excuse me for, having just kind of thrown a few balls at you. But
thank you so much. And I really enjoyed this session. Arun, I really enjoyed your views. And Mukesh, what brilliant moderation.
No. Thank you so much for adding that, special spark to our program. Thank you so much. I only like to kind of, I think we need to conclude the session. So thank you everyone for being here. And in this session, we've been bringing this session to you week after week. And this is the 11th session that Nitin told you. The purpose is to try and share, views from people who have worked in the industry and, and try and give you a perspective, and it's for you to take your final call. However, I'd just like to say, see, these are 1-hour sessions. It'll surely touch you, and I hope, make you think on some of the topics that we've kind of raised here. However, if you are looking, and some of you, the younger people in this organization or people who are senior and they feel that their team members need to kind of improve their capabilities on some of these topics that we talk about, we do offer a larger session, a session which is, of spread over 6 different modules. It involves a 1-hour, a 90-minute kind of exchange every week. There is a small cost involved in that. And should you feel inclined to participate in that, then you can register yourself for those programs and be happy to, enroll you into those programs. I do, some of us, we active WhatsApp group. Some of your names are unfortunately not there. I would once again request those of you who are here to kindly share your email IDs. And if you can kind of put those email IDs now as we are chatting, it'll help us to get back to you and bring you more programs, meaningful programs which can help you to improve your capabilities even more. Surely on the subject that of discussion today, Arun is a consultant and Sonia is our guru, guru's guru, and we would be happy to pass on your queries to them, and you may get a chance to interact with them because they would also be able to input you on building your capability and knowledge. So just, request you to put down your email IDs, and I would say stay safe and look forward to seeing you again next week, Friday, same time. So thank you very much, Sonia ji, and thank you, Arun, and thank you to the participants. Wonderful to have you again. So look forward to seeing you again. Yeah, Arun?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sonia.
Yeah. Sonia ma'am and Mukesh sir, it was a lovely discussion. So hope to see everyone next Friday, same time, 6:30 p.m. And thank God it's Friday. It's weekend. Enjoy yourself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night and stay safe. Yeah. Good night. Yeah.